गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधमाधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधमाधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधमाधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय मिश्रपाद परमंस परिव्राजकतरेशोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय मिश्रपाद परमंस परिव्राजकतरेशोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, The Renunciation of Kardama Muni, text number 4. Sa Tvaya Aradhitaha Shuklaha Satvaya Aradhitaha Shuklo Satvaya Aradhitaha Shuklo Vitanvan Mamakam Yashaha Vitanvan Mamakam Yashaha Vitanvan Mamakam Yashaha Cheta Te Hridaya Granthim Cheta Te Hridaya Granthim Cheta Te Hridaya Granthim Audaryo Brahma Bhavanaha Audaryo Brahma Bhavanaha Audaryo Brahma Bhavanaha Satvaya-aradhitaha Shuklo Vitanvan Mamakam Yashaha Cheta Te Hridaya Granthe Audaryo Brahma Bhavanaha Satvaya-aradhitaha Shuklo Vitanvan Mamakam Yashaha Cheta Te Hridaya Granthe Audaryo Brahma Bhavanaha. Saha He Tvaya by you Aradhitaha being worshipped Shuklaha the personality of Godhead Vitanvan spreading Mamakam my Yashaha fame Cheta he will cut Te your Hridaya of the heart Granthim not Audaryaha your son Brahma knowledge of Brahman Bhavanaha teaching. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The personality of Godhead being worshipped by you will spread my name and fame. He will vanquish the knot of your heart by becoming your son and teaching knowledge of Brahman. Kindly repeat. The personality of Godhead being worshipped by you will spread my name and fame. He will vanquish the knot of your heart by becoming your son and teaching knowledge of Brahman. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to disseminate spiritual knowledge for the benefit of all people, He generally descends as the son of a devotee, being pleased by the devotee's devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Father of everyone. No one, therefore, is his Father, but by his inconceivable energy, he accepts some of the devotees as his parents and descendants. It is explained here that spiritual knowledge vanquishes the knot of the heart. Matter and spirit are knotted by false ego. This identification of oneself with matter, which is called Hridaya Granthi, exists for all conditioned souls, and it becomes more and more tightened when there is too much affection for sex life. The explanation was given by Lord Rishabha to his sons that this material world is an atmosphere of attraction between male and female. That attraction takes the shape of a knot in the heart, and by material affection, it becomes still more tight. For people who hanker after material possessions, society, friendship, and love, this knot of affection becomes very strong. It is only by Brahma Bhavana, the instruction by which spiritual knowledge is enhanced, that the knot in the heart is cut to pieces. No material weapon is needed to cut this knot, but it requires bona fide spiritual instruction. Kardama Muni instructed his wife Devahuti that the Lord would appear as her son and disseminate spiritual knowledge to cut the knot of material identification. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mokam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Once upon a time, in a forest, there lived two pigeons, one male and female. They were husband and wife, young couple. They were very much attached to each other. The husband was very dutiful, the husband pigeon, and the female pigeon was also very affectionate toward her husband and very chaste. And they were very young, beautiful, and the forest was also very beautiful, vibrant. Lot of trees, lot of flowers, ponds, beautiful fruit-bearing trees, and very scenic and wonderful atmosphere. So, having married each other, the pigeon couple, they made a nest in one of the trees which they found suitable for their living. And both of them, every day, they would go around in the forest. They would find their food and they would enjoy each other's company. This went on for a few years. The male pigeon, the husband pigeon, was always eager to fulfill the desires of his wife. And the female pigeon, whenever she needed anything, she would very sweetly talk to the male pigeon and request him And the male pigeon would do everything possible within his power to get whatever the female pigeon wanted so that he could keep her happy. So both of them lived very happily, very harmonious life. Both of them did not have any quarrels. They were very loving towards each other and taking care of each other very nicely. Due course of time, the female pigeon experienced her first pregnancy. And then after some time, both of them were very overjoyed. Now we are going to become parents. And after a little while, the female pigeon laid the several eggs. And during all this time when she was hatching the eggs, the male pigeon was very careful to take care of the wife pigeon so that she could comfortably remain in the nest and hatch the eggs. After some time, the eggs also hatched. A lot of baby pigeons came out, and the joy of the male and the female pigeons increased naturally. And these small baby pigeons, very cute looking, and they're warbling, they're trying to make sounds. All that was very pleasing. And the baby pigeons are struggling, trying to stand on their legs. And slowly their wings are also growing. They are trying to flap their wings. They are not able to fly yet. And the baby pigeons were totally dependent on the male and the female pigeon to take care of them. And the male and female pigeon were very, very loving and caring. Every day going out, searching out the right kind of food for their children and bringing them back, and ensuring that the children are nicely kept properly within the nest. They are not exposed to too much cold or too much heat. And like this, they were taking good care of them. And slowly, the baby pigeons were also growing up. And they were getting more energetic. They were able to walk on their feet. And they started a little bit exploring what is outside the nest. Walk up a few branches, then come back like this. So, very wonderful family life. And both of them, they were so happy. All the children, the parents, they were all extremely happy. So one day, the male and the female pigeon, in the morning they set out to find some food for the children. And that day, it so happened that it took a long time for them to find the food. Generally, in a forest, they would find their food very easily. But that day, it took some extra time and they spent a long time. And after a long time, they managed to get all the required food. And they flew back very eagerly back to the nest because their children must be hungry. They must be waiting for them, wondering why the parents have not come back after such a long time. So they flew back. And when they flew back, the mother pigeon was going ahead, because she was more eager. Naturally, mothers are more eager to take care of the children. So the mother pigeon was flying ahead and the father pigeon was coming behind. Now what had happened when these two male and female pigeons were away from the nest? It so happened at that time that a hunter had come to the forest. And the hunter, he was going around and he heard the chirping of these baby pigeons. And he looked up and he saw, oh, such a good group of nice pigeons. So he cast his net and he caught all the baby pigeons. And the baby pigeons, what they will do? They started crying in great distress, hoping that their parents would hear them and they would come back and rescue them. So the first person to reach the place was the mother pigeon. The mother pigeon saw, oh, my children, they have been caught by the hunter. They are being captured by the net. And the children are almost dead. The hunter is going to kill them and he is going to eat their meat. So my children are finished. Then what should I be alive for? So saying like this, the mother pigeon flew directly into the net. And she was also caught by the hunter. After a little while, the father pigeon came and he alighted on the branch of the tree and he is seeing nobody is in the nest. And then he is looking around, then he heard little chirping of his children and he looked around and saw, oh, they have been caught in a net of a hunter. And not only the children, he saw his wife is also captured. And they are almost as good as dead. Then he started lamenting, oh my God, what great distress has fallen upon us. We were having such a wonderful family. My wife was always so loving and so caring, and she would serve me in such wonderful ways. And she gave birth to such wonderful children. Beautiful, cute, they were so nice, the children. And now today, one hunter has come and he on the life of all my children and my wife is lost. My whole family is finished. So all the dharma, artha, kama, whatever I did, everything has gone waste. Now what is left for me in this world? Sri Krishna Arpani Satyabhama ki jai. So what is left for me in this world now? My family is gone. My family was everything for me. My wife is finished. My children are finished. So why should I live anymore? There is no meaning to my life. The purpose of my life is lost. No more meaning to my life. So I also don't want to live. So he also jumped into the net of the hunter. And so like this, he also gave up his life. So this story was told by a Brahmana Avaduta, to whom this story was told by the Brahmana who was an Avaduta. Avaduta means he did not have any proper house, residence. He was simply roaming from place to place, and wherever, whatever he would get, he would be satisfied with that. So when King Yadu, the ancestor of the Yadavas, when King Yadu saw this Brahmana roaming around in his city, he understood he is not an ordinary person. So he approached him and sought spiritual instructions from him. When he sought spiritual instructions from him, the Brahmana, he narrated this incident of the pigeons. And after narrating this incident, the Brahmana told King Yadu that what is the lesson we have to learn from this? The lesson that we have to learn from this, as the Brahmana told King Yadu, was Yaha prapya manusham lokam, one who has obtained the human form of life. Yaha prapya, one who has obtained manusham lokam, he has obtained the human form of life. Yaha prapya manusham lokam muktidvaram apavrutam. What is so special about the human form of life? There are many living entities. There are plants, there are aquatics, there are birds, there are beasts, and then there are human beings. So they are all living entities. But then this human form of life is very special. Why is it special? Why is it completely far more important than the lives of all other living entities? Because muktidvaram apavritam. The human form of life, when a living entity gets the human form of life, then immediately the doorway to mukti, liberation from the cycle of birth, death, disease and old age is opened up. Otherwise, we are captured by the problems of birth, death, disease and old age. Repeatedly taking birth, taking a material body and then dying, and then again taking birth, dying. Taking birth, dying. We are caught up in this cycle of birth and death. Human form is the only form where a living entity can become liberated from this cycle of repeated birth and death and attain an eternal life. So the Brahmana said, Yaha prapya manusham lokam muktidvaram apavrutam. Having got a human form of life, if somebody spends his life griheshu khagavat asaktaha. If he spends his life griheshu asaktaha, very much attached to performing the duties of household life, just like khagavat. Khaga means in Sanskrit bird. So he said, just like these birds whose story I narrated to you, if somebody having got the human form of life, he becomes attached like these birds to performing his household duties only. So we can see even in the life of the pigeons, the pigeon is also performing household duty. He is taking care of the wife is serving the husband, the parents are taking care of the children. So these family duties are there even in the animal form of life. It is not something which is special or unique only to the human form of life. So it is there even in the animal form of life. So having got the human form of life, if one remains attached to performing one's household duties exactly like animals, then the Brahmana said, Aruda Chutam Viduhu. Then we have to understand that living entity has reached the pinnacle, has reached the topmost form of life that a living entity can obtain within this material world, by which he can become liberated from this cycle of birth and death. And having got the topmost life by which he can get liberated, Chutam, he has again fallen down to the animal form of life. And what is the point of getting that human form of life? That is why Srila Prabhupada also repeatedly said, this human civilization has become an animal civilization. Having come to the human civilization, which is supposed to be the most elevated, most refined, most advanced of all civilizations amongst all living entities. Surely, even animal kingdom also, there will be civilizations coming and going. They will also have their animal civilization. They will have their king of the jungle, the lion. They will have ministers. They will have people who are engaged in various kinds of activities. So all kinds of activities are happening. Eating, sleeping, mating and defending is happening even in the animal form of life. So in the human form of life, if having got the human form of life, if we simply continue the activities of eating, sleeping, mating and defending and taking care of one's, becoming very attached to performance of one's household duties, then even though one has got the human form of life, he is no better than an animal. So this attachment to the household duties is the cause of one's destruction. We can see how the mother and the father pigeons, when they saw the children and the family captured by the hunter, easily they could have flown away and escaped. Easily they could have flown away and escaped. But their attachment to the family was so strong that even though the hunter did not attempt to capture them, the hunter's net was not cast upon them, they voluntarily went and fell into it. This is the power of Hridaya Granthi. Prahlad Maharaj says, Yan Maitunadi Sukham Hitucham. So the Yan Maitunadi Sukham Hitucham. This Maituna Sukha, why does a man and a woman come together in marriage? Because of Maituna Sukha, the happiness which is derived out of sex affairs. So the happiness that is arising out of the sex attraction between the husband and the wife is not limited to the act of sexual intercourse alone. It extends to the family. Natural consequence of the man and woman engaging in sex is what? The children are born. So once attraction to the children, first the man and woman are attracted to each other. Then when children are born, their attraction extends to them also. So like this, the Hridaya Granthi, the knot in the heart of the sex attraction for the opposite sex, becomes even more tightly tied. Yan Maitunadi Grihamedi Sukham Hitucham Kanduyanena Karayorva Dukkha Dukkham. And this Maituna Sukha although for a young couple, when they come together, their family life is very rosy. And when the children are born, there is so much happiness in the lives of the husband and wife. But that happiness, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, is the kanduyanena karayoriva dukkha dukkham. Suppose you got a sore in your hand and it is itching. So when it is itching, you scratch your hand, then you feel, satisfaction. You feel a certain happiness. But after a little while, what happens? That satisfaction doesn't last. The itching increases and you scratch a little more. Again, you will feel a little satisfaction. After that, again, the itching sensation will again arise. So you go on scratching, little bit satisfaction you are getting in between. Finally, what is happening? That area where you are scratching, the skin will get opened up, blood will start coming out, and a wound will start festering. So ultimately, it will become very painful. That sore which was itching, and when you scratched it, it gave some satisfaction. Ultimately, it will result in great pain. Karayoriva dukkha dukkham. Kanduyanena, by scratching karayor, by scratching the hand, iva dukkha dukkham, it ultimately will result in dukkha and dukkha only. No sukha. Only dukkha and dukkha. And tripyantineha kripana bahudukka bhajaha. So, like this, the kripana, the miserly people in this material world, they are engaged in enjoying their household family duties. They are enjoying their household life, and they are very much attached to performing the household duties. So this kind of life, although the many people, the materialists, are very enthusiastically and with great endeavor, great effort, utilizing all their intelligence, day and night working hard to engage and enjoy like this, what happens is, tripyantina. They can never become satisfied. Always the hankering keeps on increasing. No matter how much they serve their family is also not satisfied. They are also not satisfied. That is why the man will keep working. Finally, time for retirement comes. And after retirement, what does he do? He takes up some other engagement to keep continuing his engagement. As per law, as per government, 58 or 60 years is the age of retirement. So the government compulsorily wants somebody who has reached 60 years, you retire, stop your work. But the man after 60 years, he cannot stop working. He will become a consultant. He will circumvent the law somehow or the other and continue engaging in work. Why? Because that whatever household duties he is performing, he is not finding satisfaction in that. Even after 30, 40 years of doing the same thing, still no satisfaction. Tripyantineha kripana bahudukka bhaja. And to perform that household duties, bahudukka bhaja is taking distress after distress. In a person's materialist life, if you take his whole lifespan, there will be far greater number of distresses and unhappiness than happiness that he is experiencing. Probably his life there will be 1% of happiness and 99% only dukkha. But still he is not satisfied. He wants to continue trying. Maybe one more time I try. The unhappiness will all end and I will live forever happily ever after, like every novel ends. But nobody's life ends like that. Lived happily ever after. Always the unhappiness only, lived unhappily ever after only is the reality. So Prahlad Maharaj says, such a person having got the human form of life, he is engaged in trying to simply enjoy material household life, and he is attached to performing his household duties. He is a kripana, he is a miser. Why is he a miser? Why is he kripana? Because he's got such a valuable asset of the human form of life, mukti dwaram apavrutam, by which the door for liberation has been opened. And instead of using that valuable human form to achieve liberation, what is he doing? he is again chutam, he is again falling down to the animal form of life. Arudam chutam, having acquired that human form of life, again he is engaging in debased life of the animals, trying to enjoy the senses. So, therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Kandutivan manasijam vishayeta dhiraha. A dhira, a sober person, what he should do? Kandutivan vishayeta. He should tolerate this itching tendency, that desire to engage in family household life, to have a relationship with the opposite sex. That desire is constantly nagging us, like the itching sensation of a sore which has developed on the hand. A sober man, he knows, if I scratch that itch, it will only become a wound, so let me tolerate. That itching sensation sometimes will become very strong. But we say no. A dhira, a sober person will say, no matter how much that itching sensation is strong, I will tolerate, because that is better. That's the only way the sore can get cured. So dhiraha, what should a dhira do? Kandutivan vishaheta. He should tolerate this attraction for the opposite sex. So somebody may say, okay, you are saying that one should tolerate and one should refrain from engaging in household activities. One should give up household activities and one should engage in spiritual duties. But if you do that, you are losing whatever little happiness I used to get out of that engagement in the material sense gratificatory activities. After all, okay, my life may be filled with so many distresses, 99% distress, but at least 1% happiness is there. That also you are telling, give it up. What kind of intelligence is this? So Prahlad Maharaj says, Manasijam, that happiness you are thinking you are getting from that family household life is actually only Manasijam. It is only in your mind. It is concocted in your mind. You are thinking there is happiness there. There is no happiness there. There is only distress. Even that 1% happiness is not there. So therefore, one should be very, very careful, especially an intelligent person and one who is a spiritualist should always refrain from engaging in activities which will increase the knot within his heart, Hridaya Granthi. So that Hridaya Granthi, which gives a sense of happiness within this material world, but actually it is simply concocted happiness, and which really there is no happiness in that, and which will finally result only in distress. A sober person should tolerate that itching sensation and he should avoid it altogether. So, in the case of Devahuti, what happened was, her husband Kardamumuni, being a greatly liberated yogi, he informed her, because in the previous verses, Devahuti had lamented in the previous chapter. At the end of the previous chapter, we saw how Devahuti was lamenting that she had not yet got Abhaya, Vishoka, freedom from fear. She wanted fearlessness, she wanted freedom from distress, and like this, when she was praying to Kardamumuni, and she lamented that she had spent her life in moha, illusion, and she had not utilized her great opportunity of association with a great saint like Kardamumuni to get liberated. So Kardamumuni is assuring her here, do not worry, soon you will get a son who will liberate you. This very same attraction for the household life, because of which you are lamenting today, will become the source of your liberation. So how is that possible? That is because Kardamumuni remembered Vishnu's promise to him that he would appear as his son. So therefore he said, so attraction or attachment which is directed towards Krishna, even in household life, is the cause of liberation. The same attachment which is the cause of Hridaya Granthi, which will tie you down to this material world, the same attraction, the same Hridaya Granthi, when directed towards Krishna, can liberate you. So therefore, Karadama Muni is informing Devahuti that do not worry, a son will be born to you, and your attraction and your attachment to you, as a mother, your attraction and attachment to your son will be the cause of your liberation. So how wonderful this is. The process of liberation is very simple and easy. And as Karadama Muni is explaining here, Chetate Hridaya Granthim, your Hridaya Granthi will be destroyed. And the cause of that Hridaya Granthi being destroyed will be Audaryo, your son. And how will he destroy that Hridaya Granthi? By Brahma Bhavanaha, by spiritual instructions. It is only by spiritual knowledge and by practicing spiritual life that one can overcome the Hridaya Granthi. Otherwise, everybody is a slave of this Hridaya Granthi, especially in Kali Yuga. As it is mentioned in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, that in Kali Yuga what happens? Dampatye ratimevahi. A man and a woman will become husband and wife, or marriage will be simply for the sake of satisfaction of the lusty attraction between two individuals. This is the reality. You can see now there is a news that a gay couple, they have approached the courts in India to give them to rights to legalize same-sex marriage. They are homosexuals and they want to live together and they want to be married. So they have approached the court saying that it should be legalized, because in India, same-sex marriage is not legalized. Many countries have legalized it, United States and Europe and all that. So India also should follow suit. So what is the basis of this desire for getting married? After all, for two people to become life partners, marriage is not required, no. They are already enjoying their lusty desires, their sex attraction that is there, that is already they are enjoying as live-in partners. Even for a man and a woman also, if they want to come together for satisfaction of their lustful attraction towards each other, there is no need for marriage. Without marriage also you can satisfy that desire. So, but then in Kali Yuga, people think that the purpose of marriage is to fulfill that lusty desire. Therefore, man has created marriage. Simply, in religion there is marriage simply to bring together two individuals who have a lusty attraction towards each other. For the fulfillment of that, this so-called institution of marriage is there. This is the modern day understanding. This is the Kali Yuga understanding. Reality is, to satisfy that lusty attraction between two individuals, marriage is not a necessity. So because of this perverted thinking, what happens is, two homosexuals are coming together, either gays or lesbians or whatever, they think that purpose of marriage is to satisfy the lusty desires between two individuals. Why does that two individual have to be heterosexual? It can be homosexual also, no? What is the problem? Because the purpose is fulfilled. Whether you are a homosexual or a heterosexual, two partners come together, they enjoy sex with each other. That's the purpose of marriage. So even same-sex people also should be allowed to get married. What is wrong? This is the modern day perverted thinking. Reality is, if the sole purpose is to satisfy the sex desire, there is no need for marriage. The purpose of marriage is something else. The purpose of marriage is to give an opportunity for two individuals to fulfill their debt towards society and towards their ancestors. The debt towards one's pitris, towards one's ancestors and towards society is relieved by begetting children. Therefore, there is an institution of marriage where two individuals can come together and perform spiritual duties and engage in Garbhadana Samskara and beget children who will be very highly qualified. Begetting children, even animals are also doing. Cats, dogs, elephants, tigers, animals in the forest are also doing. For that, they don't need marriage. None of the animals get married. So even for begetting children, marriage is not a necessity. But if you want to beget children of high caliber and quality, and the purpose of begetting children is also to fulfill one's duty towards society and one's ancestors, then marriage is required. Begetting children out of marriage does not, if one is not married and one begets children, then it does not absolve you of your debts towards your ancestors. So marriage, wedding, vivaha is a samskara by which you become purified. All samskaras are meant for purification. So how does vivaha become a samskara? How does marriage purify you? Marriage purifies you of your debt to your ancestors when you procreate within that marriage through the process of Garbhadana Samskara. This is the reality. So not knowing this, current day world, people think that the purpose of marriage is simply to satisfy one's lusty desires. So it doesn't matter whether you are heterosexual, homosexual, all of us should get equal opportunity to get married. Because the purpose of marriage is fulfilled either way, which is actually a wrong understanding. It is a misconception. And this is even more strongly a misconception in the Western world, because in the Western world, the concept of samskara itself is not there. Forget about understanding that Garbhadana samskara and procreation and how vivaha is the samskara. This and all, this understanding is not there at all. So we see how in the Vedic life, the human life is accorded such a great important status, and the whole Vedic life was designed such that every activity could be directed towards helping one progressing towards liberation. Mukti dvaram apavritam. The human form of life is meant to get liberated from this material world. It is not meant for any other purpose. It is not meant for satisfaction of lusty desires. It is not meant for fulfilling household duties. These are all secondary things. These are all unimportant things which are satisfied even in the animal form of life. So if somebody very expertly performs his household duties, there is nothing to be praised about it. Because that kind of activity is being done even by animals. You can see how the pigeons, they were so expertly performing their household duties that when the children were killed, they gave up their own life. They were so attached to the performance of their household duties. So sometimes animals are even more attached than human beings in performance of their household duties. So that's not an important thing. That's not praiseworthy. What is praiseworthy? It is praiseworthy when that human form of life is utilized to moksha dvaram apavritam, to go through the doorway of liberation which has opened up and become free from the cycle of birth and death once for all, go back to Krishna Loka and resume one's eternal service as Krishna's devotee in the spiritual world. That is the real utilization of the human form of life which is being mentioned here, and Devahoti is very fortunate. She has got a very great husband and an even greater son who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because of this she is guaranteed to become liberated. So I'll stop here. If anybody has any question or comment, we can discuss. Yes, Mukunda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Now, this regulated sense gratification is called pravritti marga.
Yes.
So Bhagavatam calls that as kaitava dharma.
Yes.
So that is also one kind of tapasya compared to modern day civilization, which
Yes.
is unregulated.
Yes.
So even that is called as kaitava dharma by Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
So that's why is it?
That is like the pravritti dharma is like a child desires to eat some sweet, but the child does not like to take medicine. The child is suffering from some disease. So what the mother does, the mother will take some sweet she will put the tablet inside and then she will give the child, and child, please eat this sweet. And the child eats the sweet thinking it is sweet and unknowingly eats the medicine. So the pravritti marga is like that. The carrot of sense gratification is dangled in front of the living entity and he is made to perform some tapasya, some dana, some yajna, and by doing that, unobtrusively, he will be progressing in spiritual life. So, but the problem with that system is that one can become misled by those attractive features, by those carrots which are dangled in front of you, by in the form of the various results, the various material happiness that you can enjoy by performance of that yajna, dana and tapasya. So that is why Krishna also tells in the Bhagavad-gita that yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha. So avipaschitaha, unintelligent people think that the purpose of the Vedas is the fruits that you are going to enjoy, which is described in the flowery portions of the Vedas. See how Krishna describes. Beautifully Krishna says, flowery portion of the Vedas. Why is it flowery portion of the Vedas? Pushpitam vacham. Pushpa means flower. Pushpitam vacham. The flowery words of the Vedas. Because flowers are very beautiful. Their color, their fragrance, very attractive. So similarly, the Karmakanda portion of the Vedas are very attractive. You perform this yajna, you can go to Swargaloka. You perform this tapasya, then you can get very good health. You perform this yajna to satisfy this devata, you'll get a beautiful wife. All very, very attractive words of the Vedas in the Karmakanda portion. An unintelligent person thinks that the entire Vedas is meant for only this. For obtaining these fruitive results and enjoying them. Actual fact is what? By these fruitive results, you are not going to get liberated. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Abrahma punaravartino loka. What happens is, by performance of these Karmakanda portion of the Vedas, you will accumulate a lot of punya, you can go up to Brahmaloka. Abrahma lokaha punaravartino Arjuna. But what will happen is, you will again come back to this material earth and again undergo the cycle of repeated birth and death. So, the idea in the Vedas is not to keep you perpetually in that cycle of birth and death. Actually, the Karmakandi Vadis, they say, purpose of life is this only. Perform nice yajna, dana, tapasya, go to Swargaloka, enjoy, kshine punye, martyaloka, mishanti. After that punya is exhausted, come back to the earth, again perform punya, again go and enjoy, come back, perform yajna, accumulate punya, go back to Swarga, enjoy. This is the purpose of life. And therefore Krishna says, such people are avipaschitaha, they are unintelligent. Because the human form, according to the Vedas, the whole idea of the Vedas is, you go to the Swargalokas, you will be in Sattva-guna, there you can utilize that Sattva-guna to understand the spiritual life better, elevate yourself higher and higher and higher, finally get liberated. That is the idea of the Vedas. But foolish people get limited to simply the enjoyment of material sense gratification offered in the Swargalokas, and they think this is the end. So, this danger is there in the performance of the pravritti marga. This is the greatest danger, that one can become completely bewildered by the fruits offered in the Vedas and can get stuck to them and never get liberated. Therefore, nivritti marga is far, far superior. Is that okay? Anybody else? Raghav Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Like living being.
Sorry?
Living beings.
Living being.
After millions of birth, gradually they evolve. Finally, they will get the topmost human being form. Even after getting human being form also, majority of the human beings does not show interest on spirituality. Why it should be? Means what way we consider human form is more superior in that sense?
The human form is superior because if you follow the Varnashrama Dharma, you can gradually elevate yourself and go back to Godhead. That is one process. Another process is in Kali Yuga, when Varnashrama Dharma itself is collapsed, then directly you can perform devotional service and go back to Godhead. So the knowledge is available freely. Bhagavad-gita is available freely everywhere, isn't it? But then, having got the human form of life, if we think that why I should read Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavad-gita is meant for old people, it is not meant for me, it is meant for people who have failed in life, they have not succeeded in life, people who don't know how to enjoy in life, they will read Bhagavad-gita. When you think like this, then you are spoiling your own life. So, the living entity himself is only responsible for misusing the great asset of human form of life which he has got. Just like they say, if you give a flower garland in the hand of a monkey, will the monkey understand the value of a flower garland? No, he will simply rip it to shreds. That's all. He cannot appreciate the beauty of a garland, the fragrance of the flower, and if you wear it, how you look beautiful. He cannot appreciate all this. He will simply, crush it and then rip it apart and shred it to pieces and he feel happy. So like that, the human form of life is like the garland given in the hand of the monkey who we are. So instead of appreciating that human form of life and using it for the real purpose of mukti dvaram apavritam, to get liberated, what we do, we misuse it. So who is to blame for that? It is only ourselves. Because Krishna from his side is putting every effort. Krishna personally comes. He leaves behind his words of the Bhagavad-gita and his performance of his pastimes in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. He sends his representatives, his acharyas, to come and teach the people the real value of the human form of life. All this Krishna is doing, but we don't want to lend an ear. So who is responsible? We only are responsible. So that is our great misfortune. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. A living entity who is greatly fortunate in his wandering from Brahma Loka down to Patala Loka, he will get the bija, the seed of bhakti in his heart. So to get the seed of bhakti in the heart also, one has to be very, very fortunate. Most of the living entities are unfortunate because even after getting the human form of life, they fail to come to surrender to the lotus feet of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada and sow the seed of bhakti in their heart. So, great fortune is required, intelligence is required, spiritual intelligence is required to surrender to Krishna and to Prabhupada and to understand the real value of the human form of life. Only one who is blessed by a pure devotee like Prabhupada and by Mahaprabhu and by Krishna can understand the value of the human form of life, can appreciate the instructions of the Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam and adopt them in one's life and practice it seriously and go back to God. Is that okay? We'll stop here. Granthara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.